Can I just say it?
Sure, go for it.
Alright, Cyborg is going to find himself for the first time plugged into the multiverse. He actually is able to now access that multiverse as if it is a computer. He becomes one with it. We're upgrading Cyborg. We're going to do this thing with him. From this point forward, it is Cyborg 1 million. Like, he goes out there.
I love that.
Has the ability to really help him. It's not just Boom Tube anymore. He's a multi-dimensional character.
I love it. I love
It's
it.
gonna be fun. And we're gonna spoil some more stuff about that in a little bit. There's a cover coming. But that image that was just up was Howard Porter. It's a 2-page spread that he did of that Justice League team that's in that story while going through that adventure. But yeah, we just really wanted to have a lot of fun with this story and really just kind of go crazy with it. And we're nowhere near done. You guys are gonna be really shocked at some of the stuff that happens in that story.
You know, since you're in a spoiler mode, you seem to be the one that's easiest to spoil things. I think we. You just talk. You just talk to anybody, won't you? No.
Yeah, let's do it. Hey, you guys are gonna be in for some surprises in a minute. So.
Okay. So listen. So you know, Josh is also writing Flash right now, and even though it's not right there, I figure we want to tease a little bit for Flash as well. So do we have a piece of art for Flash?
Wait, let me ask you a question real quick before you put it up. Let me ask you a question. All right, let's just do this. Who in this room is a Barry fan? Who in this room is an original Wally West Flash fan? I get asked this all the time. Who is the better Flash? Who is the better Flash? All the time I get asked this, right? Let's do it. Let's see who's the best Flash. Is it Barry or is it Wally?
Okay.
And so one of the ramifications that's going to come out of metal, one of the things that's going to come out of metal, how crazy things get in metal, we have Flash War coming next year. It's me and Howard Porter, starting in Flash 46, starting in Flash 39. We have a bunch of cool stuff coming, but in January, we have an annual coming out that is Prelude to Flash War. Howard did this beautiful cover, Chris Juice doing the inside, but starting in Flash 46, we're gonna do it. Let's find out who's better, Barry or Wally.
I love that.
Let's do it. Yeah, Howard's really excited. Right? Howard's one of my favorite artists for a long time, and we get to do this story.
It's great.
It's so good, by the way. It's such a good story. Wait till you guys see it. It really, we've talked about it for a while, and one of the things coming out of Metal is that we want to give you guys the feeling that it's complete, and then give you a sense at the end that no, it actually generates so much story in the DCU that you can follow on its own. And the story that Josh has planned is just immaculate.
Yeah, so that's the big event in Flash next year. You guys are going to be really surprised what we do.
So, listen, again, context, I always bring it all together. So we have Metal right now that's really bringing the DC Universe and pushing it in new directions, new villains, new places, new worlds, right? Then we have storylines that come out of Metal that will help really start to define some of our characters and take them in new directions themselves. But we're not done yet. We hear a lot of conversation out there right now, and a lot of it's involving DC, it's involving other companies and such, about the commitment to diversity, really pushing out and putting in new characters. You know what? And we love the characters of the DC Universe, but we know we've got to expand and we've got to grow. That's the one thing we see with Metal all the time. It's adding new context to the DC Universe. And we've got to do that with our characters too. So we're about to introduce, coming out of Metal as well, tying into it as well, what we're calling right now the new age of DC heroes. Do we have a slide? I love that slide. It's a logo. Come on, it's a good one. There we go. Yeah. And with this right now, we introduced this as dark matter early on. And why we called it dark matter early on is because dark matter is the stuff that universes is made of. It's the ideas, it's the thought, it's the creation. And what we have right now with the new age of heroes is that creation really crystallizing and come to life. And a number of the folks up here are helping bring these books to life itself. So let's go through the list. I have no idea the order, so you're going to put up the art and I'll take you through it. Ready? First one's up is The Immortal Man, written by James Tynion, and art by a newcomer called Jim Lee. We're expecting big things from Jim in the future. We're hoping this guy catches on. Now, what you're seeing on the art here right now, this scroll, this is actually the cover of the first issue. Okay? Every issue has a threefold cover vertically. Piece of art on top, piece of art in the center, piece of art in the bottom. It helps set up the entire series, introducing the important characters, the lead characters, and some of the story to come. So there's a lot of fun stuff that's going to be shown on that. Right now, we're going to do something even crazier than a threefold cover, vertically, which has never been done before, and possibly will never be done again if it doesn't work. We will do a couple of things. Number one, we are going to do a new concept for comic books. Only one cover. Unheard of. Only one cover. So when you collect this book and you own this book, and you say, I've got the first issue and this is the cover, nobody else has something different. You all have the same first issue. How about that? Okay? And then we're going to do something even crazier. We're going to keep these books at $2.99 for the entire run of these series because we know prices go. Okay? So when you see the list of people involved in this, and you see the price at $2.99, I'm telling you right now, there's no better value out there in comics than what we're planning to do here and what these guys have been doing up to this point. But Immortal Men, James, take it.
Oh boy. So, Immortal Men is the secret history of heroes and villains in the DC Universe. It's an entire new layer that Jim and I are sort of adding on. We've seen in the pages of The Forge, the casting, and in Metal itself, this council of immortal figures that they're descendants of the original tribes of man. And one of those tribes, the Bear Tribe, in old DC continuity, there was a character named Immortal Man, and that was really sort of our starting point. And sort of instead of one man, what if this is an entire family of different five siblings who each have a different idea of how to keep humanity alive over generations and over the millennia, and each of them sort of are operating on this different philosophy. But the two most powerful houses are the House of Action and the House of Conquest. And the House of Action is that, like, these are the secret superheroes from every era of DC history that you've never heard of before. On our core team, we've got Ghost Fist, who's a character in the line of the pulp heroes of the 1920s. We have Timber, who's a classic American folk hero. We have we have Reload, who's a kind of mercenary character from in an 80s, 90s style, and we have Stray, who is sort of a turn of the millennia, like manga style character who can be like the very, very like a cute Pokemon character, and then a Junji Ito horrifying monster, like transform on that scale. And so we have these terrifying, crazy figures who have been operating in the shadows of DC all this time, and but then there's the House of Conquest, which is this warrior house that believes that the only way humanity survives is by beating down the other guy. That you need to defeat people to create new technology to strive for something, and the series starts with that house winning the war, and we're going to see a new character named Caden Park come in to the last members of this whole society and go out and conquer, and try to save the future. I'm building it with a little-known artist named Jim Lee, and it's incredible. When Jim first sat me down, he called me for coffee in I think it was February or March of the year, and he basically sat me down and said, I want, and I thought it was my publisher, one of the many publishers, yeah, sitting me down and saying, hey, I want you to think of and pitch for a book. But then he started saying, so I've been thinking a lot about this old concept, Immortal Man, and the idea that, okay, if humans can build, a cathedral over many lifetimes, then what does an immortal build? And he was thinking on this, he was giving me all these huge thoughts. And then I just, paused him, 30 minutes into the conversation. I was like, Jim, are you drawing this book? And I was he was like, yeah. And it was okay, all right, we're doing this. I don't know, this is all so exciting. I'm still very new in the comics industry. I started my first published comic was 5 years ago, and I feel like I started in an age where they stopped adding new things into the main universes, where I couldn't go to my publisher and say, hey, I've got a new idea for a character that becomes Firestorm or Metamorpho or all these characters. It's that era was done. And I felt like I missed my chance. And so to be a part of something that takes that classic thing, because that's what keeps the universes fresh and new, is you gotta keep throwing new ideas in, you gotta fill the gaps that exist in the universe and tell new types of stories. So Jim and I just took over the entire secret history of the DC universe, and I want you guys to check it out.
Hey, wait. Keeping with the Josh Williamson Memorial spoiler alerts we've been doing here, Is there, you and Jim were talking about throwing a character into the very first issue of Immortal Men.
Oh yeah. Well, I've been really enjoying the Batman Who Laughs quite a bit. Honestly, this launches right out of the context of Metal. Metal is really the thing that sets these events in motion, and we're going to see, we might be seeing the Batman Who Laughs in that first issue kind of set, because on his world, he knew about these secret immortals and what they were up to. So he's going to try to change the balance here on Earth. So check it out.
Great stuff. Thank you, sir. The next book, which is the next one up? Following the Immortal Men is Damage #1. Mr. Robert Venditti, take us through Damage. Oh, look at that.
So Damage is a story about a guy who wants to make a difference in this world, like we all do. But a lot of times you feel that the powers that be, I mean, how do you even go about it? Imagine how much more that would be amplified if you're in a world of superheroes and supervillains. So he goes into the military and he volunteers to be part of a program thinking he's going to come out a hero, and instead he comes out a monster. So for 1 hour a day, he can turn into this beast, and the next 23 hours he has to sort of heal before he can do it again. And it's just an opportunity to, like James was saying, add some new characters into the DCU. But what I really want to do from the beginning with the concept is really weave it into the larger DC universe. So we're really hitting the ground running, and as readers, this is the first time you're seeing Damage. But Damage has always been there, you just didn't know about it. So we, let's see, in the first arc, well, I'm working with Tony Daniel, and so one of the great things about building a series like this and having as much lead time as we do, you can sit down with the artist and say, what do you want to draw? You don't always get that. Like a lot of times you'll be 5 issues into a series before you even know who the artist is. And Tony's like, well, I like Parasite and I like Solomon Grundy. And I was like, okay, so I'm going to make up a new version of Task Force X called Task Force XL, which is a heavy hitter squad. And it's Solomon Grundy and Parasite and Giganta, and they're just going to go fight Damage. You know? Let's see, we got Wonder Woman in the first arc fight. Can I talk about the second arc?
Sure, go for it.
Okay, so I'm really excited. I'm already almost done with the second arc. For the second arc, Carrie Nord's going to come in and draw issues 4 through 6. And I don't know, should I say, I don't know if that's too far for me to say who's in that arc?
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Keep it here. Okay?
Do it.
So
Keep going, brother. Go.
it was the same thing with Carrie. I said, all right, so, you know, we had worked together in the past. I love working with Carrie. He's a great guy, phenomenal artist. What do you like to draw? And he's just like throwing stuff at me in an email. And he's like, I like Poison Ivy and I like Gorilla Grodd. And I was like, all right. And so I made up a story with Poison Ivy and Gorilla Grodd. And it's just this, you know, my editor said, I like Damage Robert Venditti. He's a lot of fun. Because I just go and I plot out these stories for the artists, and they just come in and they just, this wrecking ball of a character just comes in and destroys stuff. And it's really a lot of fun. It's an opportunity to get to do a lot. And like James, I feel very fortunate to be doing it.
Great. Thank you, Robert. Thank you now. Excellent. Let's see what the next one, let's see what the next slide brings. Coming up. I know that one. Silencer. Oh, okay. I'll take this one because neither Dan or John Romita Jr. were here. But take a look at this one right here. Honestly, you know, one of the first things we did when we set this up is we looked at the artists who really are going to be able to launch this. And I talk about the new age of DC heroes in a very interesting way. It's not about, I don't look at just DC Comics overall. I look at really what is the context of comics books completely. And we talk about those early days of Marvel Comics when they were out there and just creating new idea after new idea and captures people's energy and excitement. Then I looked at the early days of Image and just the sheer attitude and strength of the talent that was involved in that, and the fact that people had such faith in that talent and said, I will follow you anywhere, I'll follow you to anything brand new. And then we looked at the DC Universe overall and just looked at the strength of it and the scope of our world and the depth of our characters. And we try to take all this great stuff. So when you see these books, you get a sense of this. You're going to see some of the greatest talent in comics working with some brand new characters that really fit so nicely into the DC Universe. And I think that's what brings this to life. And with Silencer is a character we're having a lot of fun with. It's basically the world's greatest assassin in the DC Universe is retired. And she's living her life very quietly. She has a husband, she has a small child, and she's very nice at where she is until basically Talia al Ghul shows up at her doorstep and says, you have to come back into the business. You've got to help me take Leviathan down. Which is going to become ultimately one of the premier villain agencies in the DC Universe coming up in the next couple of years. And with Silencer, she has to balance the normality of the life that she built for herself now against what really is the world life that she feels more comfortable with, which is the top assassin. So there's a lot of great stuff in there. There's a lot of great comedy. You see John's art. It reminds me of so much what he did with Kick-Ass and how that stuff comes to life and the power and energy of it. And Dan's having a wonderful time filling out this world. So I think Silence is going to be a book to watch as well. So we're looking forward to this thing right here. But we said it's a little bit of, for movie fans, it's a little bit of Long Kiss Goodnight meets John Wick in a nice way. So there you go. Silencer. Next one up. Sideways. Justin, do you want to do this with me? How do you want to do this?
I will.
Why don't you start for it?
No, you give them a plot and then I'll do the dialogue.
Oh, okay. Nicely done. I like that. Sideways. You know what? We were looking for something to really have a youthful energy in our books, and that's why Justin's on the book, not me. No. What we wanted to do is really have something fun, and here we are with Sideways, and you're going to see what's happening in metal. It always goes back to metal, about how the world is torn apart and tortured, and dimensions open up and such like that. And with this one young kid, basically falls through a crack in reality and comes out on the other side of Gotham City. And by doing so, takes on the powers that he's able to open up rifts in the world where he's able to step through and able to go into other places. His life changes. He tries to become a YouTube star. Doesn't become that. It's just not that easy. But just find out that the more rifts he creates, the more damage he creates to the world. And ultimately people and things try to stop him. And I'm having a great time, honestly, working with Justin. It's been a blast. And now you can do some dialogue, and then I'll come back here again.
No, it's super fun. It's been interesting to approach somebody doing a new character in a world where these existing heroes have existed for a while, right? So he's a kid who's grown up rather as we did, looking at superheroes who are a real entity in his world. And he was like, all right, I've got powers. Obviously, I need to be a superhero. And he's looked at kind of how that's done, and he tries to emulate that himself because he's really good-hearted. And as it turns out, as Dan mentioned, way more difficult than it looks, even if you do have superpowers.
Exactly. And you know what's great? I didn't even mention this, which is the most important part of this. The author by Kenneth Rockford. And if you've seen Kenneth's stuff, he's done a lot of work for DC, from Teen Titans to Superman. But I can tell you, this is a tour de force for him. It's some of the most detailed, beautiful work I've ever seen. He is born to draw this book and just bring it all to life.
Yeah, if you follow Kenneth on Facebook or probably Instagram and stuff too, he posts up these things almost daily from his sketchbook, and they are the most amazing things you've ever seen. So when Dan and I were first talking about the book, I was like, yeah, we need to get Sketchbook Kenneth on the page. And Dan was like, yes we do. And that was kind of what we tried to do with Sideways, is get that kind of wild energy and that cool stuff like Tempest Fusion on. I wish you had a picture of that dude, because it's just such a striking image.
It's just some of the greatest stuff, and the fun part is that we're picking up a lot of threads for the Dark Multiverse, and the Dark Multiverse is going to come to play, and since we're playing spoilers, I can spoil too. We spoiled this a little bit, I think it was yesterday we said, I'm not even sure, it's a blur.
It's only day 2, Dan.
It's only day 2, then it has to be yesterday. We mentioned yesterday that with Sideways, Grant Morrison's coming in to help. And because we're going to go into the Dark Multiverse, and I can't think of a better person to join us in the Dark Multiverse as Grant. And I'm trying to get Grant to do more work with us along the lines. But right now, he's going to help us with Sideways from, I think it's issues 7 to 10, somewhere in there, where we get into the Dark Multiverse, and we see some characters that Grant helped create over the years at DC, really interacting with the book. There's 7 of them. I don't want to say they're soldiers, but you might get the idea of what I'm talking about. So anyway, that's my official spoil. That's my Josh Williamson spoil from my Sideways right now. Okay? Excellent. Next up. The terrific.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my boys. So we came up with this fantastic concept.
Keep going, Dan.
Okay, keep going. Okay. So, again, coming out of metal, we've seen the Plastic Man egg. What's going on with that Plastic Man egg?
Oh, I love the Plastic Man egg. In the next issue, he gets dragged into space, and they just carry him around on like a, and then he goes to Thanagar, and they wheel him out on a thing. He's just always there. But no, Jeff Lemire is one of my best friends, and I got to work with him at DC and outside of DC, and he pitched this idea to me when I was working on Metal, where he was like, I'd really love to do a book that's exploratory and about the science of the DCU, that features Mr. Terrific, and Plastic Man, and all these great characters. That talks about sort of how expansive the DCU is. We always think that it kind of ends with, Darkseid or Mongol, but that there are realms and things that go far beyond it. And what I'd say is, like, if you want to go spoiler, like, metal is largely like one step in sort of a longer design that we have for you guys, where we want to show you that